Hello again, traders, and welcome back to the Hot Stocks Outlook for November 8th, 2024. Hope you all have had an excellent week out there in the financial markets. And as always, we're going to take a look at the most recent VantagePoint AI predicted forecast. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and click on the links down in the description below. And you can get signed up for a live demonstration so you can learn all the specifics about how these predictive technologies are helping traders make better trading decisions out there in the marketplace. Now, as we typically start out, we can take a look at the S&P 500. And so now we're up about 26% year to date after getting that rally through the election cycle here. And that's led to really a great week, right? We're up about 4% over the past 5 trading days. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these forecasts. And really, regardless of whether we have elections or earnings reports, all of these predictive indicators have a very high level of accuracy attached to them. And so we have a good example of how all this works in shares of WNS Holdings. And so what you're seeing here is daily price action, right? So every single trading day, you're going to get a new candle presented on the chart. And it's right up against that price data that the first thing that we need to understand is that there is a black line and also a blue line value. So the black line that you're seeing there, well, that's actually a simple moving average. So a very common technical analysis tool. And in this case, it's a 10 period. So it'll look at the previous 10 close prices, add those all together, and then divide by that number. And so that acts as a baseline for VantagePoint traders to really know where market prices have been. But often tools like that, one of their weaknesses is that all of that data just really summarizes the past, right? Those previous 10 candles. And also, it's only looking at one market in isolation. So in this case, WNS Holdings, as being a staffing firm and a consulting firm. And so what VantagePoint's able to do is compare that black, or what we might call a lagging or actual moving average, to this proprietary predicted moving average. And for this calculation, essentially of future prices to get calculated and plotted on the chart every evening, well, this is where the technology of artificial neural networks come into play and are performing what we would call intermarket analysis. And so what that means is that to help predict the future price of where this asset is heading, VantagePoint is looking at really dozens of other markets that are known to drive and influence those future prices. And so that can be very obvious things like the S&P or the NASDAQ, the larger indices, but it's able to understand subtle market relationships and really extract some price clues that are valuable to VantagePoint traders. And so those can be from ETF groups, also individual stocks, as well as global currencies or interest rates, and even global commodities like corn or wheat or gold or silver. And so it's able to take this global approach and with a very high level of accuracy, predict where prices are headed next through these predictive indicators. And so whenever we see that blue line cross above the black line, what's suggesting average prices are going to start going higher. It's those intermarket relationships that are really skewing the forecast to be more bullish. And so we can actually enter a lot of these search criteria into the VantagePoint IntelliScan. So if we're looking for new opportunities, we can actually say, okay, well, where is this predicted moving average having a fresh crossover of the actual moving average, and really make sure we identify a lot of these opportunities very early. So we see in this case, since that blue line crossed above the black line, we have a 12.5% rally here. Even just 100 shares on a pretty cheap stock has you up about $600. But that's not the entirety of how all of this works. Is if you look at the very bottom of the chart here, you'll also see this bar that goes from green to red and back to green. And this is another indicator utilizing those artificial neural networks, but they're tuned to solve a different problem for the trader, and that is short-term strength over the next 48 hours. So you can really think of that as just a couple of trading candles at a time. So you'll notice that when we get that blue line crossing above the black line, we do get this period where that neural index goes to that bearish configuration, and you'll notice that you get subsequent price weakness over the next couple of days. But as that neural index goes back to bullish, that's where we see all that momentum come back into the marketplace. And so that's very helpful for shorter term traders and also traders trying to identify that momentum within the trend. But to really round this out, where it really gets exciting is you're also provided a predicted high and low. So these levels are provided every single trading day before the market opens and lets you know that, okay, well, when we got this crossover to the bullish side, where do you want to be looking to accumulate a position? And you see that early on in this move, we get about 4 entries. The predicted highs and lows slide down, letting you know, expect a little bit of market weakness, expect prices to potentially trade down at these levels. But the overall trend is very bullish. And we see this market doing very well through the election cycle as a lot of liquidity returns to the marketplace. So really nice move there in WNS, and a really good example again of how all of these predictive indicators work together. If you're a trend trader, you can recognize those shifts, understand when there's short-term strength or weakness in the market, and then of course use those predicted highs and lows to really fine-tune again whatever that strategy is and what time frames you're working in. Here's shares of Pilgrims Pride, very similar example here. And I want to highlight here the Neural Index, because this indicator has an accuracy of upwards of 80+% on really a wide number of markets. And that's really incorporating things like earnings reports and elections and all of these event risks that enter into the market. We still have upwards of 86-87% accuracy on a very wide number of markets. And so you'll notice here that with Pilgrims Pride, you get that blue line crossing over the black line, letting you know, look, the overall trend has shifted. But notice that Neural Index remains bullish really up until the most recent candle here. And that's where you see a lot of that momentum pick up in the marketplace. Overall, we've seen that this move, really nice move of about 15% just in the past 12 trading days. But we'll have more examples of this, of where when that Neural Index is bullish, that's where you see that momentum pick up. And when the Neural Index is bearish, you often get some sideways price action. You can see your predicted high and low range pretty much sideways here coming into the next trading day. And of course, we can look back at all of those predictions of the predicted range. So here you see some nice entries early on in the move, getting very close towards these predicted lows, just about perfect here as far as a trading day to come down around earnings and then continue that momentum to the bullish side, even just a couple days ago, pretty much perfectly closing down at that predicted low. So really nice move here in shares of Pilgrims Pride. Again, we can take a look at the overall move here, up about 15%. Royal Caribbean is another example here, a little bit longer term, right? So this going back all the way, really about a month's time to the beginning of October. And you'll notice that when the blue line is above the black line and the Neural Index is bullish, that's where you see that momentum in the market. So you can come in every single day with that forecast and say, okay, what's going on? What should we expect here, both in the short and long term? But then you see the Neural Index gets bearish and we run into those sideways consolidation periods where, look, the overall trend is up, right? As long as that blue line remains above the black line, you want to stay on the bullish side, but you may see some sideways price action over those 48-hour periods. And so you see not only that Neural Index goes bearish, but these predicted high and low ranges adapt and say, okay, well, let's look down towards these levels. Again, a lot of noise around earnings where it actually just gaps down to that previous predicted low, and then the trend resumes to the upside here. So nice move in shares of Royal Caribbean. Again, we can take a look at the overall move with that predicted moving average still above the actual moving average. It's about a 23% rally in just about 24 trading days. So again, a pretty small position here, even 100 shares has you up a few $1,000s. Here's Sprouts Farmers Market. Again, another example. I think we looked at this a few weeks ago, but a very strong bullish trend here. And what I really want to highlight here is those predicted highs and lows. So you can see we're going back all the way now 2 months of data. And when we look at those predicted highs and lows against the actual market data, well, we can see that, look, the overall trend's up. So how do we want to be looking at these predicted lows? Well, they would stand out as good buy points. And you'll notice that pretty much within a couple of trading days from those predicted lows being hit, you see the market going higher and that trend resuming, getting a lot of that volatility around earnings and then election and really everything working out well here for Sprouts Farmers Market in a very solid uptrend. So again, we can take a look at the overall move here. 37% rally in just the past 40 trading days. There's a lot of markets that are doing extremely well, but of course, where we see that predicted moving average below the actual moving average, those markets in downtrends, you can really just ignore them and really focus on where that strength in the market is, about a 37% rally there. And lastly, Take-Two Interactive. So a tech stock here in software. Again, that blue line crossing above the black line. Here you get a couple more periods where that Neural Index goes bearish. And you really see this pretty clearly, right? When that Neural Index gets bullish, you see that momentum pick up in the market and an advance much more likely to occur. When that Neural Index goes bearish, well, you may still want to be long, but look for cheaper prices. And of course, with that roadmap of predicted highs and lows, well, that's where these levels are going to stand out. Say, okay, we'll scoop some up down at these predicted lows and be around for that next advance in the market as that Neural Index gets bullish. And again, a lot of earnings reports really seeing volatility increase around those levels. But again, Take-Two, really nice opportunity. Shares up about 17% just in the past 23 trading days. So Obviously, a lot of excitement around the election. We saw markets do extremely well after the results had come in. And so you're seeing a lot of these stocks that were in uptrend really advance even more, especially if they have earnings and some other catalysts that are really propelling things higher. So we'll go ahead and leave it there for today. Once again, this has been our Hot Stocks Outlook for November 8th, 2024. Thank you all for watching. Best of luck out there, and bye for now.